Hello everyone and welcome back to Cleovis's YouTube channel. Today we're diving into the fascinating history of independent film, from its rebellious beginnings to its lasting impact on the way movies are made. Plus, in honor of Flashback Friday, we're spotlighting one iconic indie hit that changed the game, 28 Days Later, which premiered exactly 22 years ago today on June 27, 2003. Stick around as we explore on how low-budget filmmaking, bold storytelling, and visionary directors have shaped cinema as we know it. I'll pass it over to Antonio.
We all love watching movies, but far less time is spent discussing where they come from. Today, there are more films being released than ever before, particularly small, independent projects. Let's explore their history. It begins with the Motion Picture Patents Company in 1907. Independent film can be traced back to early attempts to monopolize the industry, not by independent filmmakers, but by the Motion Picture Patents Company, which began as the Edison Trust in Chicago to exert control over domestic films through patent lawsuits. Independent cinema was birthed in opposition to the commercialization of film. The limits on production methods and access to distributors created a movement that opposed the trust for years. Although ambiguously defined, at its core, independent film goes against the status quo. It risks to be different and finds a unique way to tell a story. Ingmar Bergman explored the different ways of telling a story through trial and error. Considered to be one of the greatest filmmakers to ever live, Bergman serves as an example of production output in the second half of the 20th century. He's part of a greater phenomenon that took place among European filmmakers at this time, which is the idea that more is more. Some of the most prolific directors of this period would write and direct dozens of films in just a decade, many of them unsuccessful, but among them some of their most well-received work. This is a testament to a different era of film, one in which it was possible to produce more because of less pressure to deliver at the box office. That brings to another opportunity for films to be presented, the Sundance Film Festival. Beginning in 1978 under the name United States Film Festival, it was acquired by Robert Redford's Sundance Institute in 1985, where it took on the official mantle it holds today. The 1985 festival screened 86 films, including the directorial debut of the Coen brothers, Blood Simple. Today, the festival receives around 15,000 submissions and screens roughly 200 films, with so many well-known directors having jump-started their careers there. It highlights the importance of opportunities for independent film screenings in the industry. And part of that challenge is production, small productions and large distributors. As the film industry developed and commercial distributors only grew more powerful, the proposed solution for indie film was to produce within its own rights but distribute through major studios once projects were completed. Today, this is the standard for most independent film available in theaters. Another question became filmmaking methods and techniques. DIY film or do-it-yourself film. The 2007 film Paranormal Activity is an instance of independent film that defines 21st century indie film success in various ways. Made for $11,000 and shot as found footage, the horror film follows a couple's suspicions of their home being haunted and is shot almost entirely without the camera moving. The film did well at the Screamfest Horror Film Festival and eventually worked its way to Miramax. The film grossed $193 million, but because so many of these types of films are made each year, studio executives remain wary of them as it's hard to strike gold among so much production. This is precisely why the idea of more is more is critical to filmmaking, because in a sea of thousands of indie movies, only a handful might end up making it, but DIY film being popularized was monumental to the growth of indie film. It inspires audiences and invites them to create art of their own. 28 Days Later was Danny Boyle's genre-defining horror thriller, and it was released 22 years ago today, if today is June 27th for you. Boyle is without a doubt one of the defining independent filmmakers of the 21st century, and part of what makes him such an incredible director is that he makes movies with small budgets, not despite them. Achieving a popular release with accessible domestic equipment was important for Boyle as a filmmaker because it's a question of what the making of the film represents. For Boyle, who likes working quite cheaply, 28 Days Later defined his identity as a filmmaker. The importance of the process to Boyle captures the cultural potency of indie film within the industry because of what it represents for those who make the movies, not just for audiences. But this is outside of Boyle and Hollywood as well. In 2007, the Australian government attempted to incentivize domestic filmmaking by offering partial rebates on qualifying films. This reflects independent film on an international level, in which there's a unique identity to films made outside of Hollywood and countries' attempts to distinguish themselves. Filmmaking and national culture can be seen all across the globe, perhaps most well-known being Bollywood. There's a clash here between the pursuit of independent cinema that exists outside of Hollywood and the amount of capital behind some of these foreign film industries. Are they truly independent? But low-budget indie film continues to exist abroad and often succeeds as well. In the case of Asif Kapadia, the documentary maker, best known for his Academy Award win in 2016 for his documentary Amy about Amy Winehouse, he captures an important part of what the independent film entails in a 2020 interview. There's an overhead pressure to sign deals that span across multiple movies, which are part of a greater commercial trend of pursuing franchise films. Capote recounts being told, "If you don't sign a 3-picture deal, we don't release the film," which is part of what prompts the move towards independent filmmaking. Although there might be more ways to create films today than ever before, opportunities for distribution remain incredibly elusive. In this interview, Capote emphasizes the importance of low-budget passion projects, where he has control over his film. Documentary making specifically, there aren't as many happy endings because the stories are told as they happen, which makes it harder to sell the movie to commercial audiences. And this brings up a way that filmmaking has dramatically changed. Shot on iPhone. Being able to shoot an entire film on a phone is another crucial component of contemporary indie filmmaking. Much like earlier forms of indie filmmaking, which have a political and cultural ethos embedded within them, the ubiquity of smartphones today makes those films feel truly universalizable. But the effect goes beyond this. Shooting on an iPhone is a filmmaking technique, not simply a concession of missing funds. In the case of Sean Baker's 2015 film Tangerine, which is shot entirely on an iPhone 5S, Baker challenges cisnormativity through his filmmaking technique just as much as he does through the script that follows a trans sex worker. The field of depth achieved by the iPhone means that everything is in focus, starkly in the open for viewers to grapple with, and uses technical filmmaking elements to construct a beautiful narrative. And a decade later, Sean Baker won the Oscar for Best Picture for Anora. Baker and his producer Alex Coco used their acceptance speech to garner support for independent filmmaking. While being criticized for spending so much on the campaign process to win the Oscar, the industry considers that to be part of playing the game, and has less to do with the filmmakers and more with the distributor and studio that end up picking up the project. The win was nothing short of historic for independent film. And that brings us full circle to 28 years later. On June 20th, Danny Boyle's newest film, 28 Years Later, released in theaters, the third installment in the apocalyptic thrillers that began with 28 Days Later. The film works with a much larger budget, but the filmmaking techniques remain visibly Boyle's. Its success is a celebration of Boyle's journey as a filmmaker and highlights the importance of independent film as something capable of being genre-defining. Boyle's success in 28 Years Later is a testament to the ability of directors to continue to produce more. The idea that more is more, which is what started with Bergman but continues today with Sean Baker, with the DIY films. To produce something, even if it's not always a hit, is an attempt to produce art. It doesn't have to be the next billion-dollar movie, because it's all part of the artistic process and journey that these filmmakers take as they refine their craft and work towards something amazing.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to follow us for more engaging content. Every Friday for the next few weeks, we'll be sharing fascinating stories about historical events that took place on Fridays. Stay tuned for more fun and intriguing history brought to life with Cleovis. Ready to create your own timeline? Start your Cleovis journey today at cleovis.com and dive into history like never before.